when I first heard it and discovered it. It was a technical challenge, musical challenge, sound world of incredible beauty for me,
Mhm.
and the intimacy also of it, that I could be alone in my room and not bother anyone, but still have time alone with my instrument, and my instrument's my best friend. What can I say?
Mhm.
It's come with me through life, through my whole life. Yeah.
Was guitar the first and only instrument that you've played?
Well, no, I had started with, piano. I had 10
Mhm.
years of piano lessons and clarinet and saxophone and mandolin and, um, what is Mundharmonika? Mouth o I had, like, 10 different of harmonicas,
Mhm.
all the things one did. I played steel string guitar. I also played electric guitar. Anything I could get my hands on. I was,
Mhm.
just fanatically crazy about music.
Yeah,
And many different styles of music, but classical guitar grabbed me the most.
that's amazing. I was looking at your website and I saw that on your three pieces you had a little blurb saying that this was the first three pieces that you felt comfortable playing on classical guitar.
Yes.
Is that because you played so many other things beforehand and these were like the first things that you ever did on classical?
No, it was because I was afraid to come out of the closet.
Oh,
I was
okay.
very, strictly classically, taught, and my main
Mhm.
teacher was Oscar Gilia at the Banff Cinder and Ellie Kastner in Toronto and Carol Van Fagelen in Halifax, and Oscar Gilia also in Switzerland, in Italy, where I did my graduate studies, etc. And it was very serious classical guitar, Bach's
Mhm.
Regandi, all the Giuliani and all
Yeah.
the Fantasy, etc., etc. And to write your own music, I just didn't dare. I did write
Mhm.
music, and that's why I called myself a closet composer. And so those 3 pieces, came out of the closet and said, "This is ridiculous. I'm going to have
Mhm.
some fun because this is also a part of me." I love the traditional classical guitar repertoire, but I also love to create. I really love it. It's almost a kind of therapy, and there's so much to learn. I also think it helps you as an interpreter to, have to think about, uh, what you're creating, then you maybe start to think about what great composers were thinking when they created and how important certain things might be or not, as far as articulation or transcriptions or who knows what. Each composer has their own idea of what's important to them, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
On that note, with the restrictiveness of a lot of classical education, I'm guessing you didn't do much improvising when you were in school?
I learned some improvising, yes, and
And
I
so
learned to follow
uh,
charts
mhm.
in a jazz band,
Yeah.
electric guitar.
Did you find that you're improvising and as you got like more free and started expanding and getting out of the closet of that kind of like institutional hold that you ended up bringing that onto your performing and your composing as well?
I think it helps. I wouldn't say I'm a very good improviser, but I can spend time improvising by myself. I can't sit in a circle like Agnello Desiderio, who's coming to
Hmm.
play in Vancouver this one. Now
Yeah.
he can sit in a circle and improvise for 5 hours nonstop.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm not that. I'm pretty traditional classical guitarist in that way, but by myself, create certain ideas, and some of them come out of improvisation, but then I do some traditional writing on top of that. But
Hmm.
what I was to say is I was just stalking. I was just with the really fantastic composer Steve Goss
Yeah.
um, from London last week, and we were discussing guitarists this very subject this week, and he was saying that he thinks the future of the classical guitar there's going to be more and more composer players,
Hmm.
Still, of course, with the traditional, but it's not so shunned upon. It was honestly, in the world I lived in, it was not looked upon with happy eyes.
Really? That's kind of
Oh,
interesting.
come on, I've been doing this for a long time, 35.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to turn off my beeps. We're gonna have to beep through this, I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's just extra percussion.
Yes, a little of percussion onto it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an inspiration.
Uh, I
Mm.
think it's really interesting because I feel like historically there's always been like composer, performer, improviser, that kind of thing. So it's kind of
Historically,
neat that like the composer part of the education kind of like got knocked out at some point, and it like shunned upon is so strong. Yeah.
well, let's just look at that for a moment. Though you're right, in the 19th century, up until the 19th century, almost anyone who played an instrument, especially keyboard players, would always improvise. And even organists who study today, they must learn to,
Hmm.
in the universities, learn to improvise in the style of Bach, in the style of Mendelssohn, in the style of Debussy, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the 19th century, coming into the 20th century, when people started recording, all of a sudden players had to be even more precise and more precise,
Right. Yeah.
more precise. So there was a whole new, of course, everyone went for precision, of course, in the history, but there was a separation of the composer and the instrumentalist, and the instrumentalist learned to be an interpreter and have complete technical security. And in a way, there's some good things to that. There's also some bad things to that because the pressure of that perfection sometimes takes away the ease and the um, relaxation of interpreting even something by, yeah, some of the great composers of our time,
Hmm.
because the pressure, I must play perfectly, I must have that slur exact, I must do this. Whereas when you've maybe studied composition or improvised a little, you still want that perfection, but you might be a little bit more relaxed about how you get there.
Right.
Hard to explain, but
Hmm.
that's sort of the experience that I had when I started to come out of the closet as a composer.
Right. So I guess like the thought process would be if you're spending time on
Oh,
like these useless things like composing and improvising, then you're not putting all your focus into the perfection.
oops, well, excuse me. You want the perfection, but it's not a near death experience.
Yeah.
It's You're not going to have your hands cut off if you make a mistake.
Hmm.
Excuse me, but sometimes one feels like that, I think.
Hmm.
Or in my early years, and I've been on many, many juries of competitions, and what some of the um, players through the years, what they would go through, that what how much they would suffer when it's
Hmm.
all we want to do is make music.
Hmm.
Yes, we want perfection, but we want to make music. And if a little thing goes right or left, but the form and the flow and the story is there, that's actually what it's all about,
Yeah,
isn't
for
it?
sure. On that note, do you have anything that you do, like both for physical and for mental health, that you find has been helpful throughout the years of playing guitar?
Well, I keep saying fanatical. I'm not fanatical, but I love to swim.
Hmm.
And all physical activities. I do a lot of yoga. I try to swim every day or every 2 days, and really with concrete workouts, just like practicing my guitar technique daily.
Hmm.
All of these things become rituals, and
Hmm.
know that when we practice something every day, we get good at whatever we do. An element of creativity and all of those things, and educating yourself. But then there's also the daily ritual of physical exercise, practicing your scales, practicing your arpeggios, um, practicing your repertoire with a conscious, open mind, but doing it every day. And I
Mm-hmm.
really have to practice every day, and I have to do some kind of physical um, activity every day. Also, so that I can sit so long when I practice. It's
Yeah, it
just
makes sense.
that it balances my body is balanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a
Physicalness
pretty it's pretty bad for a lot of
bad,
things to keep this posture. Yeah.
absolutely. It's I think yoga, Pilates, these things are almost essential for uh, guitarists who are very, very serious in practicing long hours or finding some
Mm-hmm.
kind of activity to get your hip and everything back into sync.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Arms.
recently at a lot of guitar festivals, I've seen a big focus on the faculty talking about their warm-ups, not just on the guitar, but like off the guitar too. So like making sure that their bodies are like largely ready for sitting
Course,
down and
because
playing. Yeah.
playing an instrument, whether it's a guitar or a violin or the piano, it's a very physical
Mm-hmm.
experience, and we have to understand our bodies to be able to. I mean, some people don't, but and are still fantastic musicians. But I, as a musician, must um, have a sound body that feels really good to work on my instrument with my
Yeah.
instrument.
Do you do any specific warm-ups before you play? Like, do you integrate yoga as a ritual before you get into your guitar playing, or do you have anything that you do like before you sit down and
Well,
play?
for many, many, many years, I also did technique classes with my students regularly, with
Mm-hmm.
always slurs,
Mm-hmm.
always slurs, because my right hand works pretty well, but always slurs, always arpeggios, and always some scales. And I did that for 35 years or something. These days, I'm still doing that, but I usually put it into a Bach suite.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Something from the Lute Suites or Prelude Fugue and Allegro or something that just brings me at peace. It's always technically challenging. Of course, the Giuliani arpeggios are also fantastic as something one can do. I mean, there's so much. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many exercises, but the bottom line is um, good slurs, nice arpeggios, great coordination, and I have always really emphasized the importance of scale playing simply to play like the entire circle of fifths.
Mm-hmm.
Not just to be a technical bore, no, but to learn precision, to learn coordination, to learn dynamics up and down and all around, to play all over your fretboard from the first fret up to 24, up to the very top.
Mm-hmm.
And through a process of scales are the easiest. And actually, the circle of fifths is something I've done all my life, playing major, minor, two scales, three scales, all over the fretboard. Just also to find your balance as a
Mm-hmm.
player, go up and down, and just
When you're playing your scale
feeling good at the end.
exercises and things like this, do you go through some kind of set pattern like the Segovia scales or something like that, or you just improvise and like make up whatever kind of finger groupings that you want?
Oh, I follow something like the Segovia, something similar to the
Mm-hmm.
Segovia scales, but mixing like C major, A minor, going through the circle of fifths, major and minor, two octaves, three octaves. So even if you have a pattern, the pattern's changing with every scale.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to have speed, going a two octave scale that just goes flat over the fretboard from the
Yeah.
sixth. But I think it's more important. We all have different concepts, but I find it really quite important to work with speed and having the movement up and down,
Mm-hmm.
not losing your legato or your speed and your
Yeah.
precision. So you can play over the in one position a fast two octave scale, but that's a totally different technique,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
which is great. But there's a lot of classical guitar that doesn't need that. It needs this
Yeah,
way
for sure.
for
On
creative
the
searching. Wait a moment, for creative searching of fingerings and things like
mhm.
that.
On the topic of speed, actually, there's a question from a viewer Matthew. What are your thoughts on the metronome, and has your view on it changed over time?
Nope, my view has not changed at all over time. I am a complete fan of the metronome as a tool.
Hmm.
So we want precision, and we want precision, you know, coordination between right and left. And when you're working on certain things like fast scales or rhythmic motives, um, and their 16th to 32nd notes, we want that precision. And the metronome is a fantastic tool to control if we are actually doing that or if it's a little off or not.
Hmm.
As soon as you have conquered these technical issues, trained your ear to hear that coordination and that precision, because you're training your ear to hear that way. Then you can free it, and then we can put the metronome away, and then we can be a conductor and still count. I
Right.
think it's always important to count in the sense that you always know where one is. I've all through my years of teaching, almost, I mean, so many times when I would ask a student in the middle of the piece, "Where's one?" No idea.
Right.
But one is has a different weight than 2
Hmm.
or 4. So we no matter what, I mean, every conductor in the world will conduct and know where one is.
Yeah.
And a classical guitarist, as soon as we play in an ensemble, we are forced to know where one is, even if it's a duo or quartet. But as soloists, sometimes one can be so free,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
free is good, but not if you don't know where one is.
Hmm.
And so maybe the metronome helps you to make sure maybe you only have the metronome on the one of the bar. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. But use it as a tool, see if you're precise, see if you're right on, and I think you save yourself some time. And then free yourself and be a conductor, because that's what it's all about, in my
That's a really nice way
in
to
my
think about
opinion.
it. Yeah. I think like if anyone's ever like played with a conductor versus playing solo, you can feel that it's like such a big difference, and having like that kind of freeness to the music, I think makes a huge difference.
Well, I think another very important experience for young musicians studying music, probably at university level or not, high school level, go to the symphony and listen to the same piece, the same Mahler orchestra symphony, or maybe something more that can be really stretched in different ways, and hear it by 2 or 3 different conductors. And that says it all. They all know where
Hmm.
one is. But
Yeah.
oh my goodness, it's very different, every single interpretation. And that's how you learn to be able to interpret and to be free without ever losing one.
Hmm.
And when you don't lose one, everyone understands your freedom. As soon as you lose one, no one understands your freedom. They don't understand. So that in the classical, it's pretty important. In improvisation and jazz, well, there might be a drummer in the background that's keeping people under control
Hmm.
as far as the pulse goes. Pulse is so so powerful, so calming, and when the pulse is earthed, set, then the virtuosity and everything can be around it, and it's totally understood. And then comes the ease,
Yeah.
theoretically,
Hmm.
theoretically, idealistic.
So, one thing that's quite interesting to me is you have such a busy schedule between teaching and performing and composing and family. How do you manage to split your time with all these things and still manage to get the kinds of like results in your playing and composing that you do?
Well, I'm going to have to update you on my bio. I have retired from teaching,
Oh, okay.
and this is one of the reasons. It was all too much, and at some point, I had to make a decision. Um, in my 30s and 40s, I had the energy to do it all, although there was a lot of high stress periods. And as I get older, I realize I don't want that. I want to be a musician and play as much as I can. And I love to to teach master classes. I love to teach, but it was all too much
Hmm.
because I also wanted more time to learn to compose and to make myself better. So I'm also 65. So all officially as it is, I can retire. But not from master classes. I teach many master classes during the year and still a lot of concerts and still have my different ensembles and solo, duo, quartet. Um, yes, so I have a little more time now, and
Hmm.
it's a wonderful thing, I have to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Miss my students at the university. It's really hard, but there are other advantages. I have time where I can really sit down and pull myself together for new ideas and
Hmm.
new voyages. Yeah.
On that note, with your compositions, do you find that the process of learning your own pieces is like drastically different compared to when you're learning rep written by other people?
Nope. I find it just as difficult. Maybe I write too difficult. I'm trying to learn to write that pieces are a little more simple,
Hmm.
which is very hard. I
Yeah.
realize it's really, really hard. Uh, and there's a lot of things I want to learn and improve on, but each piece is happened, it's there, and then you go on. And with each piece, you develop and learn. And I also want to write for more instruments and not just the guitar. I've written for guitar and bandoneon. I've written a duo guitar concerto and guitar and flute and guitar and violin. But I'm looking at writing a solo organ piece now, and I'm sort of studying how to do that. And yeah, all of these things need time.
Hmm.
So I I'm taking the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you tell us about your process for composing pieces? Do you write like linearly from start to finish, or by section, or do you skip, or how do you go about composing?
Many different ways. Sometimes I collect themes and ideas on my iPhone. Um, Sometimes we have these like little, oh, even if you sing it, just to have some ideas or inspirations of poems or books or pictures, places. I write a lot about places I've been,
Hmm.
experience, different emotions I felt might inspire a certain theme or an atmosphere or a chord color that can be expanded into another sound world of an expansion on that chord color, whatever. Um, and then I try to make the form have a form. What do I want? Do I want a rondo? Do I want a sonata form? Do I want an ABA? Do I want to have it free? Shall it just be section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and somehow end? What to have some kind of map?
Hmm.
And then I see if I can do it, which I can't always, but you make a plan. Um, yeah, it's and I'm learning. I'm learning.
Hmm.
I'm a classical guitarist player. I'm I'm learning to be a composer, and
Hmm.
I very very much love it. Um, a lot of my pieces, I wouldn't call them simple, but they're fairly melodic. They're not atonal, although I have some slightly atonal things, but I haven't put them in concert.
Hmm.
I was just at Halberstadt at a very important, I find, um, event of John Cage's As Slow as Possible. Do you know this?
Hmm.
Yes, so I was there this year. I was also there at when they changed the note on the organ. It's a piece that's 639 years long.
Yep.
And yeah, there's many ways to be a composer. Of course, that's a philosophy. And of
Hmm.
course, he didn't even know about that. His piece was only 20 minutes long. But the concept of how John Cage thought, and that someone took this idea and found a church and built a project that's going to last with the support of the town for 639 years is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Point of that is there's so many ways to be a composer. There's so many worlds, but there's a huge movement back to melody and rhythm. Yes.
Staples as old as time. Actually, I had a question. So on the topic of like different types of composers, I think in guitar there's generally a spectrum between those who write mainly on the instrument, like DNs, for example, and then those who write mainly on paper, like Rodrigo. Like, do you have any thoughts about this spectrum on like either side and where you kind of fit within
Well, I
that
know
big
where
range?
I fit. I'm the player composer because my big inspirations and very close friends were Roland Diance. We were very close friends for many, many years, 25, 30 years. And Carlo Dominicone is one of my closest friends. And they both improvise beautifully. They both compose through improvisation and not. They both composed also very traditionally, sitting down with a piece of paper and just writing notes and without trying anything. And I do not compose just with the guitar always in my hand. I might use the keyboard,
Hmm.
or some things are just in your head, but they're useful tools, like a metronome is a tool.
Yeah.
Um, yes, but Roland and Carlo were huge supporters. It helped me. I went to Carlo. He gave me lessons when I first started, and he would check my scores and say, "What are you doing?" And Roland too. So
Yeah.
um, those two people are my world, which I have them both in my concert program because
Hmm.
they're very important composers. And two, they were, well, Carlos still very here and healthy. I just talked to him today, as a matter of fact. But Roland was what a musician. Um, in fact, in his final year, he played in Iserlohn at a festival 216, and it was absolutely mind-boggling. I've heard him so many times, but he was very ill at that point and
Hmm.
lost him 3 months later. He played the concert of his life. It was, I'll
That's
never forget
amazing.
it.
Wow.
I think it's one of the big inspirations ever. But Carlo also, what a wonderful performer and composer, and he's so well known for his koyumbaba, but he's written millions of preludes and fugues and concertos, many concertos with one guitar or two guitars, an orchestra, or oud, an orchestra,
Hmm.
many beautiful combinations. It's absolutely fantastic composer and prolific. It's
Hmm.
incredible, a massive amount of compositions. Yeah.
It sounds like you had some really good influences with getting into composing and having like that kind of like really healthy support from other people. What was it like to share your compositions with others for the first time? With that in mind, like that kind of like the box of shame that was around your early
It
education.
was absolutely terrifying.
Who
It was
was the
that
first person that you shared with, actually? Do you remember?
I well, probably Thomas, my husband, and he gave me support, and then some friends of Thomas, and but then I tried. I remember probably the one of the first times I was playing at a festival in Turkey where I tried, because in Turkey a lot of the guitarists improvise, always have.
Hmm.
So many of the classical guitar students, they all write music. So I thought, well, here's a good place to try out something. And Carlo Dominiconi was there. And yeah, he supported me. He supported me.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And then step by step.
That's really
He
cool.
doesn't support everything. He says, what are you doing? What's that? But who supports anything, right? You
Yeah.
got to do what you have to do.
Hmm.
And again, it's a learning experience. You know, it's each piece teaches you something. Each new
Hmm.
piece, just like each new piece that you learn as an interpreter teaches you something, teaches you a new technique. Every single piece, it
Yeah,
helps
absolutely.
your technique in some new way. Could be very
Yeah.
subtle, could be very big. Yeah.
On that note, how do you go about choosing your current concert repertoire? The program for Vancouver I saw ranges all the way from like Pretorius all the way to Dominiconi and your own compositions. So what goes into your thought process of deciding a program and what pieces you want to play?
Well, going back through my history of concert playing again, I played for many, many, many years. Absolute standard repertoire, like coming out of studying at university. First, we'll do the Renaissance, then we'll go to the Baroque, and then we're going to do the classical period. Then
Hmm.
after that, let's maybe a little romantic piece before we jump into the 20th century. That's fine and that's good, but does it have to be that way? So this program is sort of, well, I think I don't know if the title is on the program, but it's titled Contrasts. So
Hmm.
it's sort of going, music starts with, I start with Carlo Dominiconi's trilogy, which is a piece that did develop out of improvisation. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then I jump into, well, maybe I play a couple of my pieces, but that's more for tuning.
Really
I
strategic.
guess strategic, yeah. Some program needs a little strategy in that regards. It's a classical guitar, of course. Um, yeah, and then I play Michael Pretorius, which is 1600s.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's old music, but it is pop music of the time. It is, it's lively, it's energetic, and it could be music of today. And a lot of people hear it today. So
Hmm.
then I like to mix, fast and slow so that we have energy and then a time to relax. Something technically challenging, something simple so the audience can like get over whatever virtuosic is
Hmm.
kind of just happened. Like Villalobos, I in the first half, I can never decide if I should have something after Villalobos concerto second movement. That's quite a virtuosic piece. It's passionate, but it's also virtuosic because of the cadence at the end. Yeah, I'm not sure, but this will be to end the first half. Then
Hmm.
I have a combination, which is a dedication to Roland Diance, who, those that do not know Roland Diance, we lost him in 2016. And he wrote for my husband and myself a fantastic collage concerto for two guitars and orchestra, which we recorded. And he based it on a Fernando Sor theme and some Piazzolla, actually, and the Canadian national anthem mixed with the German national
Really,
anthem.
that's really wow. That's perfect.
So I had this dedication thing that last year I played it with the Canadian national anthem because he does one of the most beautiful arrangements of the Canadian national anthem you will ever hear. But I don't have that in the program this time. It's still, I have a little dedication to him with a Fernando Sor study that he used in the concerto. Followed, I'll be playing Paganini. Why am I doing that? Paganini, it's a happy, little virtuosic little piece, which sort of describes Roland with his sense of humor. Um, he had a charisma on stage in the guitar world that flattened the world. It
Hmm.
was like I imagine Paganini would have had in his day. So that's why I throw the Paganini. And then I end in this program with a piece called Lullaby Melissa. And that's written for my daughter when she was a baby, and also to me. So that's just a little personal dedication to Roland Diance, even though it's Fernando Sor, Paganini, and Diance.
Hmm.
So the program is just sort of thought about in a very personal way.
Yeah.
Connections. Again, it's because I've had a long career and I'm doing it a different way in my time now.
Hmm.
Sort of
It seems like a
reflecting
really
on my experience through the years, the people I've met, the people I've loved uh, musically and loved.
Mhm.
Yeah, humans, wonderful
Yeah.
humans in this musical community. It's wonderful, peaceful, wonderful people.
So I just have one final question before we move on to the viewer things. So do you have any rituals that you do before a performance? And also, like, do you have any specific things that you found helpful for stage fright and performance anxiety?
Well, I do, in fact, but I think it's all a very personal thing.
Hmm.
So, as I stated earlier, I suppose, a very physical person. So it's important that my hands are warm, that my body's warm. So I do a ritual of exercises before a performance. I do a lot of squats because they really warm up your legs and warm up
Yeah.
your body and go right to the tips of your
Hmm.
fingers. And in Europe, there are a lot of concerts in unheated churches and some pretty amazing situations of what the temperature of the church or the hall might be. So yes, I always have some herbal tea, a whole liter ready.
Okay.
I have hand warmers. It's important that my hands are warm. If my
Hmm.
hands are warm, I know I can play. If my hands are cold and my body's not feeling warmed up, I'm going to get nervous.
Hmm.
And I'm going to get nervous anyway, to be quite honest with you, because every concert, no matter how many concerts I've ever played, is an important experience. And when it's no longer an important experience, I don't need to do it anymore. And with an important experience, you got to take it seriously. So I don't think being a little nervous is a bad thing. It shouldn't get in your way, but it's about you preparing yourself for a presentation, about exposing yourself and your emotions and so many things to your audience. Yeah, you need to take it seriously. So, but I still need to prepare and have warmth.
Hmm.
Most important thing for me.
Great. Okay, well then moving on to some viewer things. I don't know if you know the names Ben Diamond
Question.
or Gwyneth Aguilar, but they both say hi, and Ben says that you're
Hi.
his hero.
Hi. Who?
Ben Diamond.
Oh, Ben. Hi, Ben.
Um, there's also a question. So this is the silly one that I was talking about before. So from an anonymous viewer, they said that they heard a rumor that you tried to climb out of a window after your first rehearsal with Thomas. Is that true?
Absolutely true.
Really?
It's
What's the
more
story behind that?
well, I mean, actually, Thomas hired me. Uh, well, how to make the story short, he had a duo, but they decided to go their separate ways and they split their concerts 50-50. So they had 80 concerts that year. So one of them would go and try and audition a new player for 40 concerts and the other, another player. So Thomas auditioned me for these 40 concerts. I didn't know him. That's how we met. He called
Hmm.
me my name from someone, and I was at that point had won a couple competitions, and I was right in my form as a soloist. And but still, the more concerts, the merrier. And yes, so he called me, and we had a rehearsal. And well, Thomas is a brilliant, wonderful person, and I'm married to him, and I love him. but we didn't get along when we first met. And he made some comments about this, and I was just so offended that I said, I can't play with you. I can't do it with you. I went for the door and he got in front of the door, but I mean, not physical, but the window was open. It was summer and it was on the ground floor. So I said, I can't handle this. I'm pretty emotional at times. Okay. So, I was over emotional and I jumped out the window and ran down the street and he came down and I came down and yeah, it's a true story.
That's
That's,
great.
he hired me. And we
Wow.
stayed together for about a year or so before we actually became a couple. But then we became a couple and then we got married and we have a beautiful daughter who's 28 years old.
I think that might be the best origin story for a duo and a marriage that I've heard. That's great.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Well, maybe one last question. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm waiting for the next question.
Okay. So just one final thing. What are you working on these days? I heard you had like a new CD coming soon. Are there any other projects or collaborations or compositions or things that you have lined up?
Well, yes, I have some commissions coming up, but I don't. Yeah, I have some new pieces I'm writing for people, and right now I'm working on a flute and guitar commission. Um, I just finished finally this CD called Dale and Friends, which I've been working on for 2 years because it's all of my own compositions with different friends. Some of the compositions are dedicated for different people, but I tried to find friends who were coming through the area of Iserlohn, Germany, where I live,
Mm-hmm.
um, who I truly care about and play great, to play my compositions with me. So I have duos with Laura Young, um,
Yep.
my very dear friend, and Zoran and Zoran Dukic and Agnello Desiderio playing a trio with me, and Li Ying is a wonderful Chinese guitarist. She played a duo with me, Frank Gassmeyer. Margarita Escapa played a duo with me. It's all my own compositions, and
Mm-hmm.
somehow I convinced him to drop by and help me out. I finished it 3 days ago. So
Wow, congrats.
yeah, I know. Just before I got on the plane, it was brutal, but it's done. It's ready. It's not ready, but it will come out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Oh, of course, Thomas is on it too.
Great. Well, I think
And
that's
that's
pretty much all.
a lovely Turkish. She was a student of mine
Mhm.
who plays a beautiful little duo with me too.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was just a really fun project, I have to say. And now I'm thinking what will be the next project, because that's what life is all about, isn't it?
For sure, for sure.
What
Well,
can I
yeah. Well, I think that's just about it. I don't want to keep you too far away from your next meeting. So that's pretty much all for the interview. Thanks so much for coming. It was really fun, and yeah, I
And
really
I
really
look
appreciate it.
forward, I hope I'll be meeting you in Vancouver.
Yeah, for sure. I will be at your concert, 100%.
Well, that's good to hear.
Hmm.
Thank you.
And if anyone else wants to go to the concert, it'll be live streamed and in person. So you can check out vancouverguitar.org if you want to find it. We have a lot of international viewers here, so if you want to purchase a little live stream ticket to the concert, you can do it over there. But otherwise, yeah, it was really nice having you, and appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Okay, see you soon.
Yes. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.